Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome one of the most eminent and prominent industry leaders belonging to the AI agent side, Mr. Lucas Imrie, who happens to be the CEO and founder of his company, Flipside AI, and he's based out of Sydney, Australia. So, Lucas, taking it on from you, why don't you introduce about yourself in depth to our listeners and about your company, Flipside AI?
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for having me first, Akhil. I'm looking forward to talk to you about AI. I'm very excited. So a bit about my journey in the IT space. I have a background in robotics engineering. I studied at University of Canterbury back home in New Zealand. And then my professional career, I worked in a couple of startups, predominantly in the blockchain space. One of them was an undisclosed company that was trying to tokenize mortgages and kind of build a stable coin economy off them. And then the other one was Glorious Digital, which was a leader in the NFT digital artwork space. And I enjoyed tech startups. I enjoyed them quite a lot because you're doing something different every day. You're not just doing the same repetitive thing. So it gives you a bit of freedom and quite an exciting line of work. And while I was working for those startups, I part-time founded a different AI consultancy with my friend. But we are doing it part-time and couldn't quite get off the ground. And then I sort of took a little break, took a little travel break, and then I've moved to Sydney to start Flipside AI, which is a AI kind of consultancy strategy agency where we take you on a journey with AI, teach you about AI, take your employees on the journey, identify bottlenecks, create agents, become your own agent boss, all that carry on, all those buzzwords. Yeah.
All right. So, you just told me that you founded in part-time a consulting company with your friend. So exactly tell me, like, where did you find the challenges when you were, running that company?
Yeah. So there was that craze where ChatGPT, kind of kicked off. I think it was November 2022 or 3. I can't quite remember. But me and my friend kind of saw it and we were like, wow, this is the future. This kind of technology is the future. And I think it almost felt, it's funny to say it, but it almost felt like we were a bit early in it. We were cold calling a lot of people. We were doing these kind of training presentations, but a lot of the ROI wasn't there in terms of like building solutions. And it was more about just training people. And I think that AI craze, everyone initially got very scared and then it kind of subdued a bit. And now we're kind of having a build up with with the new wave of agents where people are really realizing like, I need to actually get some AI involved in my business model. But it was great. I loved it, learned a lot. One of my good friends that we started that together. But I think it was more a timing thing than everything else. And I think the timing is a bit better now.
Awesome. So that actually gives me a complete point. And because of the advent of ChatGPT, a lot of things actually went in a different transition. If I can, try to understand this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like ChatGPT just started that whole movement, and now we've got a lot of workflow automation, a lot of AI agents. You've got a lot of AI agent builders that are kind of drag and drop, and they're teachable standards now, and you don't just have software engineer natives building these solutions. You can kind of have people just with a little bit of technical knowledge or that are taught very well. You've got the vibe coders as well, which I've heard on your podcast before. So yeah, now it's kind of just expanding, and there's a lot more opportunity in the space.
Exactly. Yeah, that is true. And we just had a lot of talk about vibe coding in the previous episodes, Lucas, for sure.
Yeah.
And that happened to be from Derek as well. And Derek gave a very good, an understanding about what the vibe coding is supposed to be.
Yeah. Derek's a good mate of mine. We went to school together. Used to play basketball with Derek back in the day. He's him and his business partner at Harnix there. They seem great and they're doing very cool things.
Absolutely, they're doing the biggest cutting edge thing that's going on in the AI world. So really they need to I would like to know more on how the AI is going. So having said that, Lucas, like I just wanted to understand, like, what is your take on the business use case for the AI agents, and how do you see it's fitting together in this category?
Yeah, so AI agents, I see them as just being just a transformative technology for business as a whole. I think businesses are going to have to rethink their whole business model according to accommodate these agents. And I think if you don't, you're kind of going to get left behind. and new companies that have a new kind of business structure where they put agents at the forefront are going to take over. And I guess one way I like to kind of showcase the power of agents is I do it on my LinkedIn a little bit, is showcase just some hobbyist use case and some business use case. So like, for example, some of the agents I built, one of them is like a surf forecast agent. So like I hate checking surf reports. I've never been good at checking surf reports. So I kind of build an agent that pulls swell, wind direction, wind speed from Windy, pulls that data, it pulls the tide information from an API. And then I wrote like a little guide on each surf break around me about what tide it works on, what winds it works on, what kind of swell direction it works on. And then this agent kind of builds this all together, and I can talk to it through Telegram, through voice, and it, I can ask it when should I surf on Saturday morning, and it'll tell me within 2 hours drive of Bondi where it recommends I go surfing. Yeah. So that's kind of like a hobbyist one that I quite like to just showcases the kind of possibilities. And another one, I've got one for my car. That's my own personal car mechanic in my pocket. It's got my car's user manual, service history, and then like some common issues I uploaded as like a knowledge base. So I could send photos of the dash, ask about my new services and all of that, carry on. So yeah, I like showcasing those hobbyist ones, but then in a more business manner, some of the other kind of agents that I've built that I think have good business use is one of them is a talk to your Google Drive files. So it kind of converts your Google Drive specific folders into like a vector database that you can chat to with natural language. So you could ask it questions like, where can I find this file about this? Or if you want to ask it just general information that is in there, but it's just a mess, it can pull that out. So I think that's quite a cool business use case. And then another one is an audio log class notes that I made for my mother, because she spends like 2 hours every evening writing up her class notes, writing reflections, and it's just a voice memo that she can record and then upload, and it just organizes all her thoughts under predefined headings. But yeah, ultimately, like, I guess that's some examples of AI agents and hobbies and business. But I generally think it'll reshape models, and I think the specialization of agents is going to be key. Not just a specialist marketing agent. You want to have a specialist agent for content writing, a specialist agent for brand expert, a specialist agent for image creation, and you'll have a marketer who has these specialized agents as their tools, as opposed to a more general one. And yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I think these agents are going to be entrenched in every industry. Like even construction, you can do audio site logs. You can do scheduling assistance when the orders are too late. How does it affect my whole schedule, and how can I auto affect that and demonstrate that in a dashboard that everyone can see? You can have contract risk scanners, and even like plumbing, you can have invoice creation. You can have follow-up email automations. You can even have voice agents that do your cold calling for you. So yeah, there's just so much use case. I could talk about all of them for ages, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, you just gave me an example that, you're trying to understand the tidal energy and, the winds that are blowing in the Bondi Beach. Now, if I would just like to ask you this, Lucas, like, how are you able to, gather the data? What is the source of data that you're, coming up with?
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing with agents, is you need to first decide what information you can get and how you can get it. So for the wind information, you can use like the wind swell period. You can use Windy. Windy has an API function, which is pretty much just talking to a website in code form. So I can, in code form, go to Windy and get this information. Daily I can go and get the forecasts for the wind. Then there's a similar thing with tides, but you can get the tides from an API. But you can also, because the tides are set for the whole year, you already know them, so you can kind of just upload that as a knowledge base. And then for the personalization, I had to write out when each breaks are good, based on research, and that's just kind of you do have to add these little things in if you want the agent to actually think like you, or have that personalization aspect.
Exactly. Now, you just were mentioning about a point called the super, I mean, what do you call the superized, let's say super special AI agents as compared to the, conventional ones. What difference do you, connect between these two?
Um, yeah, so I think from my kind of experience, the more specialized an agent is, or an automate, or like if it's more specialized it is, the better it performs. You know, it hallucinates less. It's got a clear task. So I think it's important to, instead of trying to build a general one, it's important to have these sub ones, right? But then you could also have an agent, like a generalist marketing agent that a human interacts with, and then that agent chooses when to use these sub agents. So you'll give your general marketing agent, I want to design an image for this bus stop based on one of my clients, insert client name, and then it'll go through and it'll be like, okay, let's use the content writing agent with like sub agent to write the content. Then let's use the image creation agent to write the
Yeah.
image. Then we'll combine it together. So they have kind of like a hierarchy or like an organization chart. You kind of think of them as you would like employees. You know, you got co-founder, you got head marketer, you got junior marketer, and you can kind of visualize agents in that manner as well. And that's kind of how they interact with each other.
That completely, sums up the point. All right. So, Lucas, now, I mean, I just wanted to understand this. Like, what is your take on the importance of the AI consulting in the IT industry?
Yeah, that it's interesting, because the IT industry is at the forefront of tech. You know, you've got people there that can code and they know about their tech. So while you might think that they know enough about tech and AI, I think in terms of strategy and vision of journey versus solution, it's important to it's important, if not more important, to um, give these guys AI consulting. Because it's important to show them the path and the right tech stack, and then, so to speak, let them cook. Because you can kind of give someone a general look at AI, and they can go down these rabbit holes, and they can waste time. There's so much like I find there's so much fake information out there, especially on like Instagram Reels. That are just like,
Yeah.
wow, the tool can do this, and a lot of the time it makes people think that there's so much out there to know about AI. But if you're kind of shown the path and you kind of get a focused kind of tech stack to use, and like shown in the right direction, I find that that they'll perform a lot better. And yeah, and then obviously with IT you want to understand the privacy concerns. But yeah, ultimately, as with any industry, it's about giving them the right foundations and pointing them in the right direction.
All right. Now, you just told that, when you're going to different websites, what do you exactly mean that, something is not right with the information that is being, mentioned about AI? Like, what exactly do you, infer by that?
Um, for example, like one that I saw the other day, it was now you can send emails directly out of ChatGPT, like it was like from the interface, but in reality, to do that, you need to use a deep research function, which takes 5 minutes, and so it's not quite there yet. And there's all these kind of, I guess they're hooks, and they try and pull people in, but there's always a bit of information that isn't quite right about it.
All right. This actually gives me a new idea. You just told me that now through, all these TikTok or let's say reels about AI that they're saying that, the emails are coming from ChatGPT. So did that ever occur to you, Lucas, that you would like to, educate the people or educate the masses stating that, this is completely fake? I can, give a complete walkthrough. So did that ever occur to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I started my kind of journey, I was all about solutions and all about building these agents that are like, wow, they're powerful, and they're going to change the world, and they're going to change everyone's business model. But I have actually stepped back quite recently, and you've really got to teach the foundations. And I think that's what makes people so scared, is they think there's so much out there and they don't really know the foundations. And especially with AI, people are scared to kind of ask questions because they don't want to seem like an idiot, and they don't want to show that they don't know that much about AI. So yeah, I think there's a lot of avenue for, I guess, truthful. There is a lot of truth out there, but there is also a lot of bogus, and I think that just the too much information just really overwhelms some people. So yeah, I do think there's a good avenue for that, and maybe I should start doing that at some stage.
Definitely. I think, the seed of idea has come from Techospace podcast. So probably you should give a patent to the Techospace podcast on this case.
I'll give you a shout out, Akhil, for sure.
Thank you. That really sounds good, Lucas. Now, Lucas, would you like to, give me a complete walkthrough, or let's say an insight about your expertise, coming on the lines of the AI strategy and automation. So how do you fit these things together?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned a little bit before, I guess coming from a engineering background as well, I feel like my expertise is a lot in identifying solutions for bottlenecks, and that's what I really like about AI. You can kind of go into a business and find these bottlenecks and be like, "Wow, we can do this and get instant ROI." But in terms of strategy, I've kind of had a shift lately, and it's about the vision of a journey versus a solution. So I don't want to I think AI strategy should be like this. It shouldn't just be you drop a solution in to a client and be like, yep, yeah, that's done. Pay me, we're done. Use that.
Yeah.
That's not, it's going to break eventually. There's going to need to be updates. It's not a single like drop a solution and it's all done. So for me, I think it's about taking your clients, taking the employees on a journey of AI change, and it's a transformation, and it needs to stem from the top. The CEO, whoever's leading the change, needs to have a long-term vision of it, that it's not just like a solution, that it's a journey that everyone needs to get upskilled. It's a learning journey. We're on this together. So the way I like to do it is, you have these two sides to my strategy. So the first side is this training. So you start with you're training the whole staff. Once a week you do a Zoom or in person. You do a training on a topic. Everyone's there. Start with ChatGPT basics like model choice. Then you go building custom GPTs. Talk about how to prompt. You got a text to video image, and then ultimately building these workflows and AI agents. So I think there's a clear path in this teaching that you can take people on. And what I've found is, because all the employees are on the same journey, on the same path, and they're at the same stage of AI together, that they get excited about it. They're talking in the office at lunch and they'll be like, "Oh, that was cool. Like, have you tried out this model?" Or, "What did you make? I might make a custom GPT of this," and they feel like they can do that because everyone's at the same stage. And it really creates this kind of cohort and camaraderie in the office about AI. They're bouncing ideas off each other. No one feels dumb for asking questions. And I think it's a relief as well, because um, everyone out there is scared of AI in some ways. Everyone's scared that it's going to take their job. And I think the fact that they're getting these new skills, that they're future-proofing their skills, they're going to be more desirable. The in the office, they're more desirable for their next job. They're more desirable, and so you're taking this on a journey where they're learning AI. They're really fascinated by it, because it's fascinating. You get so many quick wins from just learning the basics of AI, but they're also like relieved, and they've got a bit of sense, and they're not like, this cloud of AI is hanging over me. That's going to take my job.
I
Um,
know, I know. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, even I feel it. It's like whatever I'm doing, but so that's one side of the journey that I think is so important in AI strategy, and
Yeah.
then the other side is the audit and the build. So it is about sitting down with the CEO, finding these bottlenecks, deciding on value projects which you can implement automations and agents. It's also about deciding what can be and what should be, because there's always it's always just a cost versus ROI. You can do an ease and effect matrix. You rank these projects, and you come away with a list of projects that you think will help the ROI of the company. And then the next step is meeting with these particular people who run these projects and understanding the workflow, the current manual, repetitive bottleneck workflow from front to end, front to bottom, one of the two. And then so I understand it now. I know what the process is like, and then I'm going back and forth with that person, bouncing ideas, creating the solution, helping them learn how I'm building it, how they can run it, how they use it in the future. And then you've got the other side where you're upskilling the staff, and you've got these new systems coming into place, and they meet in the middle, and you've got a new AI system. much more scalable, much more efficient. But then you've also got employees that aren't just like, what is this? They're like, well, I know what this is. How'd you build this? Like, let me build this. They can, and then they start thinking about more ideas. They can fix it if it goes, if it goes down for a bit. And so I think it's about that journey as opposed to just strictly dropping solutions to companies. But I think that's also quite hard because it's you're going on like a 3-4 month journey as a company. It can't be just fix this for me and be gone. And that's just kind of my vision for AI strategy moving forward. Yeah.
That actually, sums up the point. And when you're talking about the AI strategy and automation, Lucas, it actually feels like you're telling the process of refining how well you can actually refine the meetup with the clients and how well you can refine the solutions and the
Yeah.
understanding based on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The major thing, Lucas, that I'm much more intrigued by is I just went on your LinkedIn profile the other day and I just came across one very thing and which I'm really curious to ask you. So, Lucas, on that note, would you like to give me a deep insight about your latest creation, the AI brain, and what are the types of technologies that it can be applicable for?
Yeah, cool. Oh, that's cool that you found that. Yeah, it was kind of, I just posted that on LinkedIn about a week ago. And so I guess, so the AI brain is, so what I've kind of created is people that I really, I guess, admire, or thought processes, or leaders, or kind of anyone that I'd love to ask for advice. I've kind of created them into a custom GPT, which is technically like their AI brain. So for example, I've got David Goggins if I need some motivation, if I'm slacking off at 4 p.m. and I need to do some work. I've got Andrew Huberman, who can ask for health advice, Stephen Bartlett for startup advice. And then I've got my favorite physio because I've got back pain that needs to be managed. So I guess, so I've got these guys that I can talk to whenever. And so how I built them was I have an automation that automatically transcribes YouTube channels.
Mhm.
So for each of those guys' YouTube channels, I'll transcribe them, get the transcripts of all their past videos, and store it as a text file. And then I can use that as a knowledge base in a custom GPT, which is essentially just where it pulls its information from. So that's like the AI brain that's just based off all its content. And then I've just got those guys kind of in my pocket to ask whenever. And it's quite handy. And I think it's got a lot of I kind of did it because I wanted to, show how easy it is to just kind of, I guess, AI brain's not maybe the right term, but get whoever you kind of idolize, just be able to talk to them whenever. And so I think it's got a lot of use case, say for like sales motivators. If you've got some sales guy that you really like, you like his methods, you want to talk to him whenever, or you've got like an advertising expert that there's a channel that does great advertising and you want to ask them for advice on different things. You can have knee specialists, your favorite knee surgeon, if they've got a YouTube channel, or even if they don't have a YouTube channel, if they've got like a book or kind of any content that's out there, anything you can turn into text, essentially. It could be interviews, webinars, PDF documents of a manual that you want to learn, surf coach, for example. So just kind of anything with content out there, you can create some instructions for it. And you can kind of create a brain for anyone that you want, even for, like, I've got one that's for NAN. I build a lot of workflows and agents on. So I've got, 20 hours of NAN YouTube tutorials that I've turned into text that I use as a knowledge base. And it's like having a tutor right next to me whenever I need some help. So anything like that, there's a lot of use case just for turning it into essentially a brain. But I mean, I always talk about this with one of my clients, and how awesome it would be as like your business model was just interviewing like public figures or people that, like, and then creating a brain, just ask them questions on everything, and you can just create a brain on their thoughts on everything. It'd be great. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, the space guy Neil deGrasse Tyson. Someone like that would be just so cool, just to interview and pick his brain and then transcribe it and upload it as a GPT. There's just a lot of use case.
That's a brilliant approach, Lucas, and I'm pretty sure that the AI brain also will be a new of its kind in the world market, in the tech market, and I'm sure pretty many people will start following you and get the hang of the AI brain. I'm pretty sure on this.
We might need to make a kill brain, based on your podcast, mate. It'd be good.
That's a pretty good idea on that. Now, Lucas, I mean, every invention or let's say every discovery has some kind of inception. So, what was the inception for your creation, the AI brain?
um, yeah, it was kind of just like I always message ChatGPT. I always used to message and be like, what would Huberman say about the supplement I wanted to take? Or like, can you suggest a diet that Huberman would be proud of? So I was always doing that, and I was like, there's got to be a way I can, stop having to prompt it every time, and then it just searches the web. So yeah, I just always ended up doing that. And I was like, there's got to be a way, and then I kind of figured out that you could just get all the YouTube transcripts or the podcast transcripts and then put them all into a document. And yeah, that was kind of the thinking behind it.
All right. Now, as ChatGPT is coming up with different models, let's say ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4. So do you also have, Lucas, that you also want to, create different versions of the AI brain? Like, the version 1, the version 2, or let's say the gold version, something of that kind is there in your mind at the moment?
um, I do have a business idea around it, but I don't know if I should. I don't know if my client would
Right.
be keen if I shared it. But not really, not really. I'm not trying to like release this as a product. It's just I wanted to show people how they can do it, so they can do it for themselves. And so anyone, if you have an idol that you want to talk to, and you can just create them there, and there'll be in the future. I'm sure you'll be able to get holograms that talk to you like that as well, and you can talk to like
Yeah.
voice agents now about them. So yeah, it's not about kind of releasing it more. It's kind of more about showing people. I'd love to, if anyone wants to create one and doesn't know how, feel free to drop me an email or flip me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to show you how.
That's brilliant. I think, listeners, Lucas has given you an open invitation. So probably any questions you have related to the AI brain, always feel free to, approach Lucas for this.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, Lucas, there is one particular question I just asked. So, you just told me that if you want to, reach out to your favorite new knee surgeon or, reach out to an idol who's good in podcasts and, you're able to transcribe the text. Let's say, I have a favorite sports person. I'm just giving you a use case from my end. I have a favorite sports person and I just say that, tomorrow there is a match with this team, with a very tough team. So, would I have that, that capability of asking that person through that, through the transcript? Through the GPT kind of interface in the AI brain, like
Yeah, I
anything like
mean
that.
it depends what kind of content you can get. If your idol's got a book, you could use that as knowledge. You could go through your idols and get all their interviews that they've done, or if they've done any like articles or podcasts. You can turn those into text. Yeah, turn the book into text, get an audiobook, turn that down to text, and then yeah, you could be like, hey mate, you've got England tomorrow in the cricket. What do you think? What are your tips? And it would based on what kind of information you've been able to get, it would be able to have that kind of conversation with you. So there's a lot of avenues. Even if it's just for a friendly conversation with one of your idols. One of my idols is Harry Kane. But he doesn't have too much information out there. So yeah.
Oh, so you're a Hurricane fan, and I believe you're a Bayern Munich fan also.
I'm a Tottenham fan actually, but
Okay.
Bayern's my second team now that Kane's there. That's for sure.
Right, right. That's pretty good to know. I mean, this is a $1 million question, Lucas, which I would just like to ask you. I've always heard about AI agents, but the thing that I'm very keen to know about is, Lucas, from your end, is I just wanted to understand, like, what are the types of back-end technologies and front-end technologies I use for creating the AI agents?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think front end is particularly interesting, but I'll start with the back end because it kind of explains it a bit better. So we're lucky now, and I think because there's a good range of kind of skill levels to build these agents and build these workflows. Like custom GPT is a great introduction. You can build them straight in Chat GPT if you've got a plus plan. That's how you can build the brain. And they take kind of 5 minutes to build, and they're working. If you give them tools, they're essentially an agent at heart. So they're a very low level, low entry kind of um, exciting moment for kind of the everyday person to be able to get involved in these agents. And then you kind of work more towards the technical build. So you've got make.com, which is great for automating workflows simply, and you can learn some skills there and how to reference APIs, and it's a good drag and drop builder. And I see that as kind of the next step, which is what I take my clients on as well. You know, we start with custom GPTs, then we teach them how to use make.com. And then you've got N8N, which is for creating kind of fully functioning agents, which is a bit more technical, but it gives you a lot more functionality, and there's a lot more you can do with it. So, but I think that step process is very good because it kind of eases you into it slowly. Not saying it's easy, but it's teachable, because there's also the OpenAI SDK software development kit, which is what you really want if you're doing a proper enterprise solution. But I try and apex the clients at N8N because firstly, it's a visual learner. It's kind of a visual flow. You can see it. And I think that I can teach them N8N, whereas with OpenAI SDK, it's you kind of need a coder to teach them. So I think there's these levels to building agents and building workflows that right now are very kind of friendly to beginners, and everyone can kind of learn it. And honestly, I think it's just going to get easier. You know, there's probably going to be text to agent builders and not long, you know, and, you know, N8N's almost becoming a text to workflow builder, but you're always going to need these skills of when they break, what goes wrong, how to customize them. So there's always going to be skills there, and that's why I'm always trying to teach them. And then, so I guess that's the back end. And then moving on to the front end, I think the front end's interesting because it's probably going to be the differentiating factor between a lot of agents, because a lot of agents on the back end are going to be similar. They might be built slightly different, but their functionality is going to be different. And so the way I see a successful front end of AI agents is like a dashboard where, say, you're the marketing lead, and you log into your dashboard at work, and you've got your, I don't know, 5 agents there, or you've got your one agent that then delegates to sub agents, and you talk to it in voice. You know, you're talking to it. It's just, it could be a hologram in the future as well. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of front end interaction is going to be losing that friction of having to go to a website, go split between all these tools, split between all these agents. The front end that can really encompass all that from a simple dashboard through voice is going to be, I think that's going to be the future of how you interact with the agents.
All right. That completely sums up the point. Now, you were just telling me about a use case about a backend technology which was N18. Now, you were just saying that it's more like, the visualization of text to workflow, right?
Mhm.
So do you compare the N18 to that of the vibe coding, or is there any different approach to that?
I guess once N8N gets to text to workflow, I guess it is kind of like vibe coding. You know, now you still need to drag and drop and label your nodes and all that. But you can kind of create custom GPTs that even spit out a JSON file that you can upload as a workflow, which I guess is vibe coding. But I see vibe coding as a bit less technical needing. You know, it's purely just text to prompt. And yeah, I think yeah, I guess workflow and agent building you might get to vibe agent building, you know, in the end of it. But I think at the
Yeah.
moment the agent building is still a lot more technical than the vibe coding. But I mean, vibe coding, I know is I kind of see it more as like you're not building a product, you're building like a MVP, like just a demo pretty much of what you can build. And then you probably, if you're going to production, you really need to build it properly. But
All
yeah.
right. That actually, explains the point. So, Lucas, if I'm not wrong, you might be aware of the thing called the low code, no code platforms like Pega and Appian. So, do you feel that low code, no code, apps in the front end can get, integrated with the AI agents in the creation, or do you feel, it's too early to talk about it?
Yeah, I think I'm sure they will. Yeah, honestly, I think this technology is going to move so fast, and that's kind of why it's hard to it's honestly just hard to create a business model. Like, I think, you know, you used to create business models for 2 years in advance, and I honestly think now you need 6-month business models, and you need to reassess. And especially being, you know, an AI consultant slash strategy. My kind of thesis is adjusting. It needs to be keep adjusting, every week. So I'm sure they will, and it's just about being adaptive. And I think that's the businesses that are gonna win the most in the next couple of years. It's those that are adaptive.
Perfect, Lucas. That actually gives me a clear idea about it, and about the influx of the about the the low code no code platforms into the AI agent space. Now, Lucas, I'm just wanted to understand this. Like, since you told me that this is your favorite thing, and you just wanted to talk on and on about it, I would just like to place it across to you. So, Lucas, in your experience, tell me about this. How do you think the AI can be bridged with the nuance of the blockchain?
Yeah, lovely. So this is kind of my favorite tech intersection. Obviously, kind of my old job and now what I do now is it's very intersection, and I just love the blockchain. I love decentralization, verification. It's just awesome. I love the blockchain and I love AI, so it's awesome. And I guess the bridge, I think they're very interconnected, and they will continue to get more interconnected. My favorite aspect of my favorite aspect of the intersection is actually tokenization. I think this will be a very important bridge because with AI, we have so much AI generated content. You've got bots that you talk to, you're not sure if they're real. You've got images and videos. Is this Yeti really talking, or is this a fake bid? And you've got these fake news channels that come out. So I think what we need, we need some way to prove ownership and authenticity. And the solution is actually through NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. And because these prove ownership and authenticity. And I think you'll find that we might need to have a news company that tokenizes its news. It's like, what's this piece of news? I can go on the blockchain and verify that this was actually a verified piece of news, because it might get to that stage. And it shows ownership as well. Who owns this? Like, if you've got art out there, is that AI art or is that human art? You need to tokenize these things as content just gets flooded and out of hand. So I think that's an interesting intersection. And taking it one step further, there's this concept of soulbound tokens, which are essentially digital passport NFTs. So they're like NFTs that can't be transferred. So you're like, maybe you'll be assigned one at birth from the government, and that's your digital identity. So you can use these in conjunction with NFTs for like authenticity and ownership, and be like, oh, this is actually a human, and this is how we distinguish human and machine, because they've got a soulbound NFT in their crypto wallet, or and it's quite a niche intersection, but it's kind of what I think might happen in the future.
All
And I
right.
mean, there is a lot of other use cases with blockchains, like if you need to verify your agent's actions, you can verify that on the blockchain, verify the supply chain. And I think for payments, using a crypto wallet makes a lot more sense than a credit card, for security reasons and for like ease of integrations with websites. And touching on decentralization, obviously the biggest pillar of the blockchain, I think, is just as important in AI. Centralized power, centralized data, centralized point of failure as AI gets bigger is not what we want. So, you want decentralization. You don't want one big company. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on AI and blockchain.
That's a pretty good description about it, Lucas. Now, Lucas, if I just understand about the blockchain, I feel it's more like the governance, because you're able to, just give some kind of a compliance to it, that, I mean, the credit card information should be kept on a secret par, and, fake videos should not be there. So I feel there's a lot of, governance touch to that. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for blockchain to really get adopted, you need the government to really start adopting it. But obviously they don't want that, because they want to control the money. They want to control the coins and track your transactions and stuff. But I think there can be an intersection where it can work. It can make money more efficient. They can implement tracking laws and privacy laws and stuff like that to make it work. Specific coins that you can track. And so I think there is an intersection there, and it will take time, but I think it's going to have to get there if we want the world to move forward.
Exactly. Everything, starts with a journey, and then it goes to a transition. to a to a different transition. And yeah, and I feel all the concepts that we have discussed in the podcast, I'm pretty sure that it will find its way in the future for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Never know.
Absolutely, we don't know. The future is unpredictable, especially in the range of technologies that are just hitting the market left and right.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So now, Lucas, I mean, we just had this conversation in the starting that you want to take the extra time of training your clients or the business with the nuance of the AI. So on that note, I would just like to understand, like, how do you think how do you think your business, or let's say your clients, can get updated, or let's say forwarded with the nuance of AI? Like, what better methods do you reckon for this to follow up?
Yeah, so I think similar to that vision I said before, I think that needs to be the base case. That needs to be where, it needs to be a leader who realizes change. It needs to be taught from the bottom. It needs to be taken as a journey where everyone's learning at the same time and up at the same level. And then more than that, I think you ultimately need to reassess your business model and do it every 6 months. Understand the agent hierarchy or organization chart and how you can implement that. It can be, people say, oh, agents are going to take my jobs, but if you can scale, you can just have each of your employees have these agents underneath them, and you can scale 10, 20 fold. So that's kind of the dream, because I do see it taking people's jobs. There's no doubt about that, but it's just about how you can kind of minimize that and scale as opposed to exposed to firing. So that'd be ideal. And then I think building on top of that, so that's the base case, and then I think just constantly upskilling. Keep adapting, and AI moves fast at the end of the day, and that's why it's always important to have a AI consultant as a retainer. Anyone you can talk to. So call me anytime.
All right. Yeah, I mean that gives me a complete picture about it, especially about the training methodologies and models, and about the AI consulting, which you were just talking about in our previous conversations. Now, for training your business, or let's say training your clients, how much time does it take? On let's say on a range basis, or let's say on months basis, to get them right with all the methodologies.
Yeah, I think so. With some of the clients I've got at the moment, I'm doing like an hour training a week with everyone, and that's there's a new topic every week. We do a presentation, questions asked, you've got a little bit of homework, and then you've got a next week, you've got the next session, and they can talk about it amongst them for the week. And you've got this consistent once a week AI learning that you're kind of building towards. And I honestly think that's at least kind of a 2 month process. You want 2 months of those sessions, and then alongside that, you've got the builds, which can take longer, can take shorter. But the minimum time, from start to finish, has to be at least 2 months, because you've got to do that training. And then normally the build takes a little bit longer, depending on the solution size and how busy I am and things like that. But yeah, I think that can be the hard thing with bringing new clients on board, is with my kind of way I see it, my kind of business outlook on it, is I don't want someone that's not going to come along for the journey. I want someone that does see the vision and wants to learn like that. So yeah, it's kind of my
Exactly.
thesis.
Exactly. Let's say the client is, a little bit confused with the AI methodologies, and he feels that, I'm getting a little bit doubt. So in that case, do you actually, let's say, postpone your training, or do you, reschedule your training, or let's say, do you delay it for some time?
Yeah, I try and start very simple, so that everyone's kind of, for some people it might be too simple, but I've found really need to just assume no one knows nothing and start from the bottom and slowly go through. And if people need me to slow down, then I can definitely do that. Or if some people need like an extra session, you can have another session. But yeah, back to what I was saying before, it's making sure no one's left behind. So it's important, it's important to have these people that if they're struggling, that they come forward and we can, or make sure they go up to speed, so that everyone's along the same journey, because that's the whole point.
Exactly, exactly. Now you just were mentioning that that you're giving training to the businesses. Do you have any idea in the future, Lucas, that you would like to give training to the people who are in the university, or when you attend any any live tech events? Do you have that thing in mind at the moment?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to take an AI class at a university or talk an event. I feel like that's probably the end game. Um, but yeah, so just starting with clients and hopefully keep building it and yeah, see where we go from there. Mm.
All right. I mean, have you thought about an application, or let's say a front end app that you would like to, send out your message of, training to your, your target audience? I mean, a tracking kind of a system. Have you thought about that?
I should be. I should be. I have thought about doing some more kind of content, short form content and YouTube content to kind of get the message out there a bit more. But it's to be honest, mate, it's a little bit daunting for me to do that. So um, I'm definitely thinking about it though because I think it's just a lot more scalable to teach on a platform like that as opposed to just individual clients. So maybe one day you'll see me online, mate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll be the first person to, give you a thumbs up on that. And yeah.
My guy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, in the starting, Lucas, when you were just telling about your journey, you said that you started out your journey, or let's say you had your, let's say, master's in robotics. Now, when you went all the way from robotics to the AI agents, like what was the difference that you have observed there?
Yeah, so there was actually a fair bit of carryover, and my favorite aspect of robotics at the time was always automation. Um, and that's kind of why when I got back into AI and got back into automation, I was like, oh yeah, I remember I used to really enjoy this in university. But it's an interesting intersection because I think obviously robotics and AI are going to be intertwined as we move forward, and it's quite a scary intersection, I think, when robotics and AI properly intersect, when you have workers carrying boxes that can talk to you, that can kind of analyze, and you might have, you're even seeing it like, Burger King these days has, an AI person who takes your order. So there is a lot of crossover there, and I would like to use my robotics degree again at some stage, and I feel like I might get to that stage. So yeah.
All right. So do you feel that, AI agents and robotics can actually be like best friends when it comes to the intertwining?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And it's scary best friends. It's very powerful best friends. But then you're going down all the dystopian movies, iRobot and Ex Machina and all of that. So watching those movies now and as AI is getting good and you got robotics coming in, it's quite scary to be completely honest. Like I've got a bit of a not doomsday mindset on it, but it's just quite scary, I think. But it's also very powerful, and there'll be a lot of opportunity along the way. And I think regulation is something that needs to be more enforced in AI, but I just don't see how. I think you've got all the big countries racing. It's kind of like the nuclear bomb. It's like everyone's racing to be the best. To be the best builders. So how do you enforce that on a global way? Because you've got when AGI comes out, which is artificial general intelligence, which is when they're got emotions and they're human-like, and you can't tell the difference, and then you get all the Blade Runner stuff, and it's just yeah. So I think regulation is something that needs to be taken so seriously, but I just struggle to see how it is, and I think that's quite scary.
It is, it is. I mean, I feel that, the Hollywood movies that were created, then people thought that, AI is not going to reach the surface, or let's say reach the shore. But now, to their dismay, to the Hollywood producers' dismay, AI has actually come out of the mold, and people are just seeing its implications. Probably it's more like, they're seeing the movies and they're actually comparing it. Are these
Yeah.
two things similar? It's like, does LHS match RHS in mathematics? If there's, I mean, there's a concept like that. So it's actually, moving it in that favor.
Oh, it's crazy, yeah. But yeah, I watched Blade Runner like 2 nights ago, and I was like, they're predicting this in like 1982, and you're like, wow, yeah. So it is a bit scary, and you kind of think the world's never gonna go that way, but you never know. So yeah, it's gonna be a crazy 10 years. It's gonna be a crazy 2 years to kill. So yeah, it's just yeah, just be adjustable.
It is, it is. I mean, yeah, but again, it's in our hands, in the hands of the people who have actually created the AI. People say that AI is taking away our jobs, but I feel that humans have created AI, and they have the right to to actually govern it, or keep the compliance regulations attached to it.
Yeah, yeah. I do think that ultimately we do have the power until we don't, I guess. But the hard thing is that I think if you see it as taking people's jobs, and you see it ultimately, say 80% of the world doesn't need to work because AI and robots are doing that for us, then it comes down to how does the government pay everyone, and how the big corps, give back to the give back to society. And I think that is also a little bit of a scary thought. But you've just gotta hope that the big dogs sort us out if that ever happens. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think we'll be all right.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that actually, sums up the point. Now, Lucas, before we actually conclude our podcast session, let's take a pretty lighter route. At this moment, we were just going all over the place with respect to the AI agents, about your journey and about the AI consulting, the strategies, how do you train your, businesses and the use case based on that. Now we'll take a lighter route in the form of a rapid fire round about your likes and interests.
Oh yeah, cool. Let's do it.
Right. So the first question to you, Lucas, like, what's your favorite sport? Is it cricket or is it football?
I used to play football growing up, so my favorite sports football, football and surfing. I'd say are my favorite too. Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
played throughout school and I'm a big Tottenham fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I would just like to ask you this, since you told me that you're a Tottenham Hotspur fan, who do you think is the best player of Tottenham? Of all time.
Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane. I can't comment on anything older than me. I know like Ginola was good, but I never saw him play. Gareth Bale is what made me like Tottenham. He was so exciting. He was always my best player. This at Spurs. But seeing Kane, come through the ranks, with a pretty mediocre squad around him, just does everything. He gets a bad rap, Kane, but yeah, I think he's the best Spurs player of all time.
He's a complete machine. I mean, with respect to the goal scoring tally, I mean, I was really blown when I saw, he was a newcomer basically when, I started watching again. I took a break from football for a while in 2014, years back. So, when I came across Harry Kane, I was like, okay, this person is pretty new. And then his goal tally just increased, and I'm like, he's a complete machine.
Yeah. He's consistent, but he's not flashy. He's not like the most picturesque guy. He's not very fast. But he gets the job done.
Exactly, exactly. Now, Lucas, if I would just like to ask you this, what is your favorite Indian food?
Oh, great question. So my favorite Indian curry is actually chicken jalfrezi.
Okay.
That's my favorite, and then hard to look past an onion bhaji, but it's got to be a good onion bhaji. I feel like they can range, but a good onion bhaji and a chicken jalfrezi curry, hard to beat.
Wow, that's a very different combination.
What about you? What's yours?
My favorite is palak paneer.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I haven't tried it.
you should try palak paneer. It's like, spinach with some cottage cheese. We call it
Oh,
paneer,
okay.
but it is cottage cheese.
Nice, nice. I'll have to try it.
You'll definitely like it, but it's vegetarian. But again, yeah, you'll definitely have a good shout out to that.
I'll give it a nudge.
Definitely, definitely. All right. So now, if I would just like to, understand this, Lucas, what is your favorite holiday destination that you like to, always travel?
Ooh, good question. Um, I think for holidays these days, I like them either to be surf trips or snowboarding trips. So like Japan's pretty hard to beat for a snowboarding trip. Went there earlier this year actually, and it was awesome. So I love Japan, great food as well, obviously. And then I'd love to go to the Maldives. I'd love to go on a boat trip with the boys to the Maldives for a bit of a surf mission. So yeah, either of those two, whatever time of the year it is, send me to those. I think probably boat trip with the boys in the Maldives or Meds would be pretty ideal for me.
Amazing. Lucas, the final question to you, like, now, if I would just like to ask you this, since you told me that you're from Sydney, so which aspect of Sydney, fascinates you the most, or, highlights the most?
Mm. Yeah, so I lived in Auckland before this and kind of moved to Sydney. I just being able to go to the beach, every day. Like I live kind of 10-minute walk from the beach. I can go for a swim every morning. There's quite an active culture here, but there's also a very social culture. being able to surf, just right out in front is pretty unbelievable to me, having grown up in Auckland. Um, yeah, just the whole vibe of it. The work life balance is good. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here. Um, and yeah, there's some good chicken palmies as well at the pubs. So yeah, there's a lot going on. So I really like it.
That's brilliant, Lucas. So, Lucas, finally, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of this Ecospace podcast initiative. And I really, really had a great time conversing with you. On the lines of the AI agents. Now, with the AI agents, actually, it gives me a concrete foundation to my understanding. And along with that, the thing that I was most intrigued was the way you were talking about the AI brain. That concept actually, just blew me off. Seriously.
Oh, amazing! Oh, thank you, Akil. I've had an awesome time, and it's been great to get to know you. And yeah, I look forward to following your journey and listening to your podcast as we go forward. But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, mate, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lucas. So, listeners, listeners. On this note, this is your host Akhil Navlori signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode with another eminent industry leader very soon. So, till then, keep listening. Take care. Goodbye. Thank you, and au revoir. Thank you.